Ladies and gentlemen, history just blinked, and when it opened its eyes, the world had changed. What you're witnessing isn't just economics. It's not just a trade deal. It's the collision of legacy and ambition. It's the rise of two titans, India and the United States, joining hands, shaking the ground beneath a silent West. In a world where alliances are whispered and power is negotiated in shadows, this deal was a thunderclap. For decades, India was underestimated. For years, America was told its best days were behind it. But now, right now, both nations have found common fire. This isn't a favor. This isn't charity. This is strategy, purpose, and mutual respect forged in the flames of history. And while some are stunned into silence, the rest of us, we're watching a new axis of power take shape. One that doesn't ask for permission, one that commands attention. India, once colonized and broken, has risen with a roar that echoes across centuries. This is not just poetic sentiment, it's a historical fact. There was a time when India was called the jewel in the crown of empires, not because it was weak, but because it was powerful, rich in knowledge, wealth, and culture. That same land, which was looted, divided, and dismissed, has now risen from the ashes of oppression with a strength that is shaking the foundations of global power. This is not the India of silence, it is the India of strategy, of vision, of undeniable potential. It has taken blow after blow and still stood back up, taller, louder, and more determined than ever before. And standing across from it is the United States, a nation born from fire, from resistance, from the unshakable belief that freedom is worth everything. America was never handed greatness. It had to build it, piece by piece, out of rebellion, sweat, and sacrifice. The U.S. has faced civil war, depression, terror, and division, but it's still here, not perfect, but resilient. Not always liked, but always relevant. It is a country that has thrived not because it avoided hardship, but because it embraced it, learned from it, and outgrew it. What we're witnessing now is more than just diplomacy, it's destiny. Two civilizations, on opposite sides of the world, walking different paths through the fires of struggle, now finding each other in a moment of clarity. There's no begging here. There's no begging for a seat at the table. India and the United States are building their own table and setting it for the future. This is not charity. This is chemistry. This is not about dependency. It's about alignment. When you combine the precision of American innovation with the scale of Indian ambition, something profound happens. You create an engine, not just of commerce, but of change. Together, these nations are forming an axis of progress that cannot be ignored. In technology, in defense, in trade, in education, doors are opening that were welded shut by years of mistrust and misplaced priorities. Now they are being blasted open by courage, confidence, and collaboration. And understand this clearly, neither India nor America are doing this to appease anyone. This is not about making the West comfortable. This is not about fitting into old power structures that were never built to include them in the first place. No, this is about declaring we are here, and we are done waiting. This moment matters because it reminds every nation watching that history does not belong to those who whisper. It belongs to those who roar. India is roaring now, not just through its markets or its factories or its tech corridors, but through its intent. It no longer waits to be recognized. It recognizes itself. And that energy is magnetic. That clarity is powerful. When America looks at India today, it doesn't see a country trying to catch up. It sees a partner with fire in its eyes. A partner that brings more than numbers. It brings nerve, grit, and vision. A partner that isn't afraid to challenge old norms, to dream without limits, and to disrupt what's outdated. This partnership is about growth, yes, but not just economic growth. It's about growing louder, bolder, and more fearless in a world that still tells developing nations to know their place. It's about standing up and saying we will not be defined by where we started. We will be known by where we're going. And the best part, they're just getting started. Imagine what this means for a kid growing up in Delhi or Detroit. Imagine what it means for young entrepreneurs, creators, thinkers, and builders in Bangalore and Boston. It means the future isn't just something they read about in textbooks, it's something they can shape. It's something they can own, because two of the most vibrant, capable, and determined nations on earth just shook hands, and in that handshake was not just trade, but trust. The world may not be ready for what's coming, but it's coming anyway. India and America are no longer asking for a chance, they are taking it, boldly, together. And the sound you hear, that's not applause, that's the sound of the world catching its breath. This deal is not just about tariffs, numbers, or signatures. It's not just a headline to scroll past. It's a signal fire, a bold, blinding announcement that the world order is being rewritten in real time. For decades, the global economic structure has been controlled by a handful of powers who built the rules to serve themselves. They sat at the top of the pyramid, comfortable and unchallenged, while emerging nations were expected to wait their turn, to stay in line, to remain obedient players in someone else's game. But something has shifted, something powerful. With this interim trade deal between India and the United States, the script has been ripped apart and rewritten, not in whispers, but with thunder. These two nations are no longer satisfied being parts of an old system designed without them in mind. They're not asking for inclusion, they're creating a new system altogether. Let the world take notice. This is not about trade alone. It's about influence. It's about shaping the future instead of waiting to be shaped by it. For too long, leadership was monopolized by a select few, and the rest of the world was expected to follow. But what happens when the so-called followers decide they're done playing the role of second-tier powers? What happens when the emerging giants stop emerging and simply stand up? You get exactly what we're witnessing now. India, with its unstoppable energy and swelling global presence, brings not only scale but clarity. It knows where it's headed. It's done being the market everyone wants to exploit without respect. Now it's the one setting terms, choosing partners, and walking into the room not as a guest, but as a host. America, often seen as a solitary leader on the global stage, has realized something profound. True strength isn't about dominance, it's about alignment. Real leadership is knowing when to stand beside someone, not above them. In India, the US sees not just a rising power, it sees a mirror of its own past, bold, hungry, visionary. And in that reflection there is possibility. Together, these two nations have the potential to reshape how the world trades, negotiates, and grows. And that has some corners of the world deeply uncomfortable. Why? Because control is slipping. The grip of those who once dictated the rules is weakening. The monopoly on influence is breaking apart. And in its place, something more democratic, more diverse, and more dangerous to the status quo is rising. This trade deal is not a one-off move. It's a statement of intent. It tells the world we're not playing by your rules. We're writing our own. It tells the old powers, your silence is your weakness, your arrogance is your blind spot. While you were busy underestimating, others were out building, out thinking, and out strategizing. This isn't about revenge, it's about redirection. Understand this, India and the US are not looking to dominate the world, they're looking to disrupt it, to break the cycle of outdated alliances, and replace them with partnerships built on mutual growth, not manipulation, on shared purpose, not political theater. And while many nations are stuck debating their past, these two are investing in their future, in AI, in clean energy, in space, in defense, in education. They are moving fast, thinking big, and acting bold. The West can either watch or adapt, but the days of ignoring this power shift are over. The silence we're seeing now, it's not peaceful, it's stunned. It's the kind of silence that comes when you realize you've been outpaced, and it's not going to stop here. This is only the beginning of a new era, where emerging powers don't emerge, they arrive, where partnership means equality, not hierarchy, where nations don't wait for permission to lead, they simply lead. So let the world be speechless, let the critics scramble, let the old powers whisper behind closed doors, because behind the scenes, a louder, clearer voice is rising. A voice that says we will not be passengers in this journey, we will be drivers. A voice that doesn't just want a seat at the table, it wants to redesign the table altogether. This deal is not just a transaction, it's a transformation, a shift, a message, a movement, and the world is no longer in charge of the narrative. India and the United States are for too long. India has been underestimated. For too long, America's strength has been challenged, questioned, and misrepresented. This interim trade deal is more than an agreement, it's a declaration that respect is not negotiable. It cannot be begged for, borrowed, or bartered. It is earned, and sometimes it is demanded. This partnership between India and the United States is not built on desperation. It is built on a fierce understanding that two nations, rooted in struggle and sacrifice, will not wait for the world to validate them. India has carried the weight of centuries, colonial scars, global dismissals, and economic stereotypes. But through all of it, it never stopped. It kept building, kept growing, kept fighting. It wasn't just rebuilding an economy, it was rebuilding an identity. And today, India walks onto the global stage, not with folded hands, but with clenched resolve. It doesn't need to be seen. It makes itself unmissable. It doesn't need pity. It has power. And America, it has always had critics. People who count it out every time there's a dip, a crisis, a controversy. But here's what they never understand. America doesn't stay down. It recalibrates, reinvents, responds. What sets it apart isn't perfection, it's persistence. And this deal is proof that the US is not just looking backward at what it was, but forward at who it can stand with. Together, these two countries are not forming a convenience. They're forging a coalition of equals. There is no senior partner, no junior partner, just two nations that have looked at each other and seen something real, a shared fire, a common defiance, an unshakable belief that the future belongs to the bold. This is not soft diplomacy. This is steel meeting steel. This deal sends a loud and unapologetic message. We do not need permission to lead. We do not owe the world an explanation for our strength. We will no longer tone ourselves down, so others can feel tall. We have seen what happens when power is hoarded. Nothing grows. But when it is shared with purpose, entire civilizations rise. Some may see this as transactional. They couldn't be more wrong. This is transformational. This is a relationship built on values, vision, and velocity. Both India and the US understand what it means to be doubted, to be challenged, to be put in a box and told, this is your limit, and both have exploded past those limits, again and again. Now they're doing it together. And let's be clear, this isn't about revenge. This isn't about outshining someone else. It's about owning the space you've rightfully earned, about stepping into your power with grace, but without apology. Respect is not something to be begged for, in boardrooms or negotiated in back channels. It is something you bring with you, by showing up, by standing tall, by never backing down. This deal is a signal to the world that mutual respect is not a slogan, it is a standard. It's the baseline, not the bonus. Any nation, any leader, any institution that refuses to recognize India's rise or America's renewed purpose is simply stuck in yesterday. And yesterday doesn't decide tomorrow. What India and the US are showing is that greatness recognizes greatness, not because of ego, but because of earned excellence. They are not just trading goods. They are trading trust, building a bridge where others only saw barriers. And the reason the rest of the world is stunned, it's because they were never paying attention. They were too busy underestimating, too consumed by old maps and outdated mindsets to see the realignment of global gravity happening right in front of them. Now it's too loud to ignore. This isn't noise, this is clarity, the kind that comes from knowing who you are and what you deserve. And neither India nor the US will settle for less ever again. Respect is not negotiable. Power is not inherited. It's proven. And the future, it belongs to those who never needed validation to know their own worth. India and America don't just walk with respect. They walk like they've already earned it, because they have died. What comes next will not be led by hesitation. It will not be written by those who play it safe, who cling to outdated blueprints, or who fear disruption. The future will belong to the doers, not the doubters. And this trade deal between India and the United States is a flashing signal to the world. The future is not coming. It's already here. This isn't a moment to be politely celebrated. It's a moment to be seized, because what we are witnessing is a shift in gravity. Two nations stepping into their full potential and daring to build tomorrow today, not with caution, but with conviction, not with borrowed dreams, but with visions of their own, crafted by decades of resilience, ambition, and unapologetic willpower. The old powers are watching, but they don't understand what they're seeing. They think this is a temporary alignment, a transactional event. They are wrong. This is transformation. This is legacy in motion, and it's happening not just in parliament halls or policy rooms, but in the hearts and minds of 1 billion people waking up to a new era. Think about what this means for the child,
in Lucknow learning to code, for the student in Texas dreaming of building a startup, for the mother in Hyderabad or Chicago raising the next generation of changemakers. This deal doesn't just benefit governments, it ignites possibilities in people. It creates space for innovation, education, entrepreneurship, and security. It gives everyday individuals the chance to believe that they are not on the sidelines of history. They are at the center of it. This alliance is not just a transaction, it's an invitation to step up, to speak louder, to build bolder. India is bringing its scale, its spirit, its relentless energy. The United States is bringing its technology, its infrastructure, its global reach, and together, they are creating a launchpad that doesn't just lift economies, it lifts dreams. But let's make one thing absolutely clear. This future will not be handed over easily. It must be earned, fought for, defended, because there are still voices out there, silent, bitter, threatened, who would rather see this partnership fail, who fear what happens when the rules of the game are changed by those who were once told they could never even play. But the difference now, no one is waiting for approval anymore. India and America aren't knocking on anyone's door. They're building their own house. There will be resistance. There always is when something new threatens something old. But this alliance isn't here to please the past. It's here to shape the future, and the world will have to catch up or get left behind. The industries of tomorrow, AI, renewable energy, biotech, defense, space exploration, won't wait for yesterday's strategies. They demand boldness. They demand trust. And that's exactly what this deal delivers. Trust in each other. Trust in the potential of their people. Trust that when these two forces move together, they are not just following trends, they are creating them. This deal isn't just about India becoming a bigger player, or America retaining influence. It's about redefining what leadership looks like in a world desperate for direction. It's about cooperation over coercion, partnership over posturing, impact over image. It tells every kid with a dream, and every family with a goal, you're not waiting in line anymore, because the front of the line just moved, and it speaks Hindi and English. This isn't about East or West, it's about forward. India is not rising quietly. America is not retreating gracefully. They are advancing together, like two waves that when they crash into each other, don't cancel out. They create a tsunami. And so to every doubter, every cynic, every analyst too focused on what's been lost to see what's being gained, look again, look closer, because the future is not some distant idea anymore. It's being engineered, drafted, tested, and launched, right now, by the very hands they told to wait. India and the United States are not passengers on this journey. They are the drivers, and they're not slowing down. This moment is not just the end of a negotiation. It's the beginning of a revolution. A quiet storm has turned into a global roar, and the world, once comfortable in its old hierarchies and inherited power structures, is now watching with disbelief, because something they never thought possible is happening before their very eyes. Two nations, different in culture, united in vision, are rewriting the rules. They're not following a blueprint handed to them by others. They're drawing their own map with bold, unstoppable strokes. India, the land of sages, soldiers, scientists, and survivors, has risen, not through shortcuts, not through favors, but through sweat, grit, and a refusal to be overlooked. A country that was once seen as a service provider to the world is now standing tall as a strategic partner. It is building satellites, exporting software, rewriting the narrative. The same land whose history was shaped by colonial control is now shaping global trade, diplomacy, and technology. It has earned its place not just at the table, but as one of the ones setting the table. And America, the fire that built this nation, still burns, even in times of division and doubt. The spirit of innovation, resilience, and leadership refuses to be dimmed. The United States didn't become a superpower by accident. It became one by constantly adapting, relentlessly innovating, and believing in the impossible. And now, it's turning the page, choosing not to cling to past dominance, but to invest in a future built on partnership. Together, these two nations are not merging by accident. They are aligning by purpose. They're creating a new kind of power, not based on fear, not based on control, but based on mutual strength. One that doesn't just ask what can we get, but boldly declares, what can we build? This is a challenge to the world. Evolve, or be left behind. Because this new chapter doesn't wait for those who hesitate. It's for the bold, for those who know that global leadership is not about hoarding power. It's about amplifying possibility. It's about building bridges that carry not just goods and services, but ideas, values, and hope. This partnership stands as a testament that greatness isn't inherited, it's built. It's earned by those who show up, who speak out, who keep pushing when the world says enough. And both India and the United States are filled with people who refuse to settle for enough. They want more. They want progress. They want legacy. So to the skeptics, watch closely. To the dreamers, take notes, because what's unfolding between these two nations is not just a diplomatic milestone, it's a global turning point, the kind of moment history books will point to, not as an agreement, but as an awakening. In the coming years, the projects launched, the technologies shared, the opportunities open, will reshape the trajectory of millions. Young minds in Ahmedabad and Austin, innovators in Pune and Palo Alto, builders, thinkers, leaders, makers. This is their time. This is our time. And while the old world struggles to understand, a new world is already on its way. One that doesn't ask for a seat, because it brings its own. One that doesn't whisper, because it knows how to roar. India and America are not rising. They have risen, and they're not stopping. They're just getting started. The future doesn't belong to the privileged few anymore. It belongs to those bold enough to build it. You said suitable ending. 600 words without headings. ChatGPT said, this is the moment where silence ends, and a new rhythm begins. The world has watched from afar, often in disbelief, sometimes in denial, as India and the United States have moved quietly, but purposefully towards something bigger than trade, something deeper than diplomacy. And now, there is no more room for doubt. The partnership has arrived, not as an experiment, not as a symbolic gesture, but as a powerful force that will define the future of the global order. We are no longer talking about who used to lead. We are no longer repeating the stories of inherited power, of alliances built behind closed doors by a handful of nations, dictating the terms for everyone else. That era has passed. We are now entering a world where leadership is earned through action, through contribution, through courage. And that is exactly what this deal represents. A handshake between two nations who've carried the weight of expectation and the burden of underestimation, and who've decided to throw both off for good. India, once dismissed as the periphery of power, has shown the world that resolve and resilience are more powerful than privilege. This is a country that has taken every limitation thrown at it and turned it into leverage. From its booming tech sector to its expanding manufacturing base, from its space exploration to its digital revolution, India has proven that it doesn't just play catch-up, it creates momentum. It doesn't ask for permission, it doesn't wait for validation, it builds, it rises, it leads. America, too, stands at a defining crossroads. After decades of leading the world, through innovation, through democratic strength, and through global alliances, it is making a bold and strategic shift, not by holding on to power, but by sharing it with those who have earned their place at the table. The United States isn't backing away from global influence, it's redefining it. It's recognizing that true strength is found in partnerships, rooted in mutual respect, not in outdated hierarchies. Together, these two nations are not just working together, they are believing in one another. They are investing in each other's future. This is not charity. This is not convenience. This is a powerful and intentional alignment between two democracies, two economies, and two peoples who know that the challenges of the future will not be solved by going it alone. They will be solved by standing together. Yes, the world is speechless, but that silence won't last, because what's happening now is too big to be ignored. It will echo across boardrooms, parliaments, classrooms, and innovation labs. It will be studied, discussed, and most importantly, followed. Others will watch this playbook, not because they're told to, but because they'll have no other choice. This is what happens when two nations dare to defy gravity, when they refuse to be held back by the limits of history, or the weight of expectation. This is not the end of anything. This is the ignition point. In the years to come, we won't just remember the signatures on a page, or the applause at press conferences. We will remember the spark, the fire, the energy that came from knowing that two nations, standing shoulder to shoulder, dared to believe in a bigger future. The old world order did not see this coming, but it sees it now, and it knows it cannot stop what has already begun. So here we are, on the edge of something extraordinary, not waiting for the future to arrive, but already building it. Together, India and the United States are not asking for space in the world, they're creating it, and they're filling it with possibility, with courage, with vision. The story has already changed. The world just needs to catch up.